All right, if you're an entrepreneur in Japan or even just thinking about it, you really need to pay attention to this. We're about to break down a huge, and I mean huge, overhaul to Japan's business and management visa. And trust me, it's going to affect a ton of foreign business owners.
And when I say dramatically, I'm not kidding. We're not just talking about some minor paperwork adjustments here. The fundamental rules for how you live and operate your business in Japan are being completely rewritten. So the big question is, are you ready for what's coming?
Okay, let's dive right into this business visa overhaul. We're going to break down these new standards, which are frankly a lot tougher. You'll want to understand these because the clock is definitely ticking.
So here's the headline. Starting in 2025, a whole new set of rules kicks in. This isn't just about adding more bureaucracy. It's a real strategic shift. Japan is basically signaling that they want to attract more serious, well-funded businesses and make sure that visa holders are genuinely contributing. The old way of doing things? Yeah, its days are numbered.
So, what's actually changing? Well, the government has laid out 5 big new hurdles. These are the things you'll now have to prove, whether you're applying for the first time or just trying to renew.
So here they are in a nutshell. First, a massive increase in the money you need. Second, you have to hire a full-time employee. Third, there's a new language requirement. Fourth, you got to prove your own credentials. And fifth, if you're a new applicant, your business plan needs an expert seal of approval. Each one of these is a pretty big shift on its own.
Let's start with the one that's probably the biggest shock for most people, the money. The minimum capital requirement is jumping from 5 million yen all the way up to 30 million yen. That is a huge leap, and for sure, it's the single biggest new financial barrier.
Yeah, let that sink in. To put it another way, the investment required has gone up 6 times, a 6-fold increase. I mean, that's a number that just completely changes the game, especially for smaller startups or sole proprietors who are trying to get their footing in Japan.
Okay, on to hurdle number 2, staffing. You're now going to need at least one full-time employee. But, and this is a really crucial detail, it can't be just anyone. They have to be a Japanese national, a permanent resident, or a spouse of one. So what does that mean? It means other foreigners on work visas, they don't count towards this requirement.
Hurdle 3 is all about language. Now, either you or your new full-time employee has to show what they call considerable Japanese proficiency. And this isn't some vague idea. They're getting specific. It means hitting a clear benchmark, like passing the JLPT N2 test or being a graduate of a Japanese university. Now for hurdle 4, which is all about you, the business owner. You have to prove your own qualifications, and you've got 2 ways to do it. You either need an advanced degree, think a master's or an MBA in a field related to your business, or you need to show you have at least 3 years of real, hands-on experience managing a business. And number 5, the last hurdle. This one's specifically for anyone applying for this visa for the very first time. Your business plan can't just be something you whipped up yourself. It now has to be professionally reviewed and signed off on by a certified expert, someone like a licensed tax accountant.
Okay, so we've covered the what. We know what's changing. Now for the really critical question, when does all this happen? The deadlines are actually different depending on your situation, so let's break that down right now.
Mark your calendars. Here are the 2 key dates you need to know. Starting October 16, 2025, every single new applicant has to meet these 5 new hurdles. Now, if you already have the visa, you get a bit more breathing room. The new standards will apply to all renewals starting on October 16, 2028.
So, is there any wiggle room? Well, maybe a tiny bit. If you're up for renewal after that 2028 deadline and you don't quite meet the standards, you might get approved if you can show a super convincing plan to meet them by your next renewal. But I have to warn you, the official guidance itself says this will be very difficult. It's not a loophole you want to rely on.
So, with all these challenges, what can you actually do? Okay, it's time to shift from just understanding the problem to actually building your action plan. Let's look at the proactive steps you can and should be taking right now.
Here are your 4 main strategies. First, get your basic compliance sorted out immediately. That means social and labor insurance, they are really cracking down on this. Second, you have to start planning for that capital increase now. Third, start looking into other visa types. Maybe there's a better fit for you now. And fourth, if it's a possibility for you, you might want to consider naturalization.
Let's talk more about that capital increase, because 30 million yen is a lot of money. How do you get there? Well, there are basically 4 main paths. You can use your personal funds, You could get a private loan, you can reinvest your company's profits back into capital, or you could even merge with another business. And remember, you can mix and match these strategies too.
And hey, beyond those 5 big hurdles, immigration is also just tightening up across the board. So think of this as your basic get your house in order checklist. Make absolutely sure you're enrolled in all the right insurance, you're paying your taxes on time, you've got all your permits, and you're not spending huge chunks of time outside Japan. These things were always important, but now they're basically non-negotiable.
Okay, we have covered a lot of ground here, so let's bring it all together. What is your next move? Let's distill this all down to the key takeaways and what your path forward looks like.
Look, the most important thing is this: you have to act now. The single most important first step is getting fully compliant, especially with social and labor insurance. After that, make a real, concrete plan for raising your capital and start exploring all your other options. Honestly, the sooner you can meet these new standards, the safer and more secure your future in Japan is going to be.
At the end of the day, this is a fundamental shift. Japan is raising the bar for foreign entrepreneurs, and they're raising it pretty high. The old playbook, well, it's obsolete. So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. The rules have changed. Will your strategy?